I just saw a robot performing a tea ceremony here in Shenzhen, China. But here's what most overseas viewers get wrong. The tea ceremony is not the product. It's the proof that the technology behind the demonstration actually works. I recently spent an afternoon at the China Information Technology Expo here in Shenzhen, and there were a lot of booths featuring robots, doing lots of demonstrations, things you've probably seen online in viral videos. There were robots playing the drums, playing the piano. There were robots in boxing matches. There were even robots serving tea, serving coffee, basically pure viral video content. But all these demonstrations were only on the surface. There's a deeper meaning when it comes to what these companies are actually trying to sell. So here's what you don't see in all those viral videos, because I went to the booths, I talked to the sales reps, and I saw the actual application videos that they were trying to sell to interested buyers. That tea ceremony robot, it was actually being advertised in videos for being able to grasp a number of household objects and do chores. The musical instrument robots, they were actually being advertised as being able to handle very small screws and small machine parts. So what you see in the viral videos isn't what these companies are necessarily trying to sell. For any viral robot video that you've seen online, there's almost certainly a different application that the company is trying to make money off of. Because interesting standout things go viral. Business products and services usually don't. So why do Chinese companies demonstrate the robots one way, but sell a completely different application? It's not because there's some sort of dishonesty or a bait and switch going on. It's simply a different approach in China to how products are shown off and tested versus how they're actually used. And this is something that happens not just with Chinese companies, but with the Chinese government as well. Let's look at Meituan as an example, the company that's famous for all those coffee drone deliveries that you've likely seen online, the type of service that everybody wants to see when they're visiting China or on the China Innovation Tour. But Meituan isn't actually making money from coffee delivery drones, and they're not trying to. It's simply a demonstration. What they're actually focused on is last-minute delivery, warehouses to distribution centers, deliveries across the mountains to remote mountainside villages. This is what their focus is. Coffee drone deliveries is just a way to demonstrate it. Or take Unitree, the Chinese company famous for all those backflipping robots that you've seen on stage in viral videos. But here's the thing. Entertainment and demonstrations isn't their main business. Over 70% of their focus is on research and education. And they shipped over 5,000 robots last year, compared to maybe 100 to 150 for Western competitors. So Unitree is not selling to consumers. They're selling to universities, to research institutions. And the backflipping robots are just proof that they're not going to fall over. Here's the thing about public demonstrations of technology like robots and other things in China. The government supports it because it helps get the populace at large used to the idea of these types of technologies in daily life. For example, when robotaxis were being rolled out in the city of Wuhan, there was a number of taxi drivers that demonstrated and pushed back against this. But people had already ridden in these taxis, these robotaxis, numbers of times, hundreds if not thousands of people had done this, and so they were able to share their experiences and how it was positive for them. So remember, all these viral videos or all these demonstrations of robots that you see, it's not just marketing. It's helping to generate greater public acceptance for this technology. Western media and commentators often don't understand the Chinese approach to demonstrations for robots and other technology. You've probably seen the negative headlines. One outlet called Chinese robots viral moments of uselessness. Another called them a spectacle. Another asked what the value of a robot performing a backflip was. And other commentators and voices online have asked whether they were fake or CGI. But these commentators are missing the point. The ability of a robot to backflip is not for sale, but a robot being able to move quickly and safely in a dynamic work environment is. A robot performing a tea ceremony isn't for sale either, but precise manipulation in an industrial work environment is. These type of misunderstandings partly result from how opaque China can seem from the outside. Not because China or Chinese robotics companies are trying to hide anything, but because oftentimes commentators and news media focus on spectacle or negative reports. So it can be very hard to understand what's really going on the ground, especially in real time. Here's why this gap matters. Western companies analysts and investors keep getting caught off guard by Chinese innovations, not because something was hidden, but because they keep relying on headlines instead of information and truth for what's actually happening on the ground. Remember when everyone dismissed BYD, which is now one of China's top EV makers? Overseas commentators thought the company was a joke, but now, just a few years later, they've surpassed Tesla in global EV sales. Let's not forget about DeepSeek, which shocked many Western analysts and companies when they appeared to come out of nowhere. But they hadn't been hiding. They've been iterating in China in public for 2 years. It's simply that investors and analysts weren't paying attention. And of course, there's Huawei, my alma mater, which shocked everyone by being able to innovate their own chips after Western sanctions from America took place. And the reason nobody realized they could do it was because they weren't paying attention to what was actually happening in Shenzhen's tech ecosystem. What I've described is a pattern. Chinese companies test publicly, they iterate quickly, and they scale before many Western observers and analysts know what is happening. If you're making important decisions about China, but you don't have anyone on the ground, that means you're making important decisions with outdated information. You're seeing the tea ceremony and not understanding there's applications in chemical factories or industrial environments. Now, the robots I saw at the China Information Technology Expo, they'll be in factories very soon if they're not already. But the only thing that's going to go viral online is the backflipping robot or the tea ceremony. So that's what I'm seeing here in robotics in Shenzhen, China. If your company has exposure in China and you're trying to sort out what's noise versus what's real, that's one thing I help Western organizations with. I help them understand what's really happening in the China market and how it might affect their businesses. If you'd like to talk more, my links are in the description. Otherwise, I'll continue sharing more on-the-ground insights about what's actually happening here in Shenzhen. I'll see you next time.